morning. My name is Michael Carter. I'm Senior Advisor to the President, Chief Diversity Officer here at Sinclair. I'm going to start up here and come down there, unless you think I'm trying to be completely different. I'm really going to come down here a little bit so I can see the screens a little better. That's the main reason. And I'm so wired up, I better not fall in water or anything here. So Shauna and Jess have really outlined the importance of relationships as we talk to students. Is something I'm really passionate about. And I'm going to share some observations and also personal experience with you as we talk about this. And when I get done, you're going to see a video that outlines the importance, once again, of relationships with our students and how vital they are to student success. But I really want to stress, when we talk about equity and simply providing what every student needs, the importance or the power of you, and that power to unlock doors to every student, every child's success. A lot of times we get focused on systems and how do we play in that, or how do we fit in that. But the individual piece is really important, and I can speak to that personally. If we depend on our children, and speaking from my cultural experience, if we depend on children who look like me to be in front of someone that looks like them for their success, we're not going to be very successful, because in every situation, that's just not possible. So there's been a lot of talk about change, and there's fear. There tends to be a little bit of fear in America about change and how things are changing, the demographics and things changing. And I think it's really, from a historical context, to look at change benefits us. You know, the increase in women in leadership positions in America has enhanced productivity. Before 1948, there was this notion that integrating the armed forces was bad and it would somehow hurt us as a country. But integration of the armed forces has enhanced this country and made us stronger. Those of you football fans, if you watch Southeastern Conference football, the SEC, 50 years ago, there were no African Americans in the SEC. I would say that the SEC and the rest of college football would say that change has been pretty good, especially for the SEC. So change is something that doesn't erase, it really makes us better. You've got an image, President Obama on the left, and another image on the right that I'll explain. So in America, let's say you have two homes, and there's a child in these two homes, and they may even be right next to each other. And in one home, the adults who impact and talk to the child says, no matter what anybody does or what anybody says, you can be successful. And in the other home, which I'll speak to in a second, but I want to give that picture a little context so you know. So if you see that photo on the right, that is, if you've ever, how many have been to Nashville? So on Route 65 in Nashville, you go down the highway and you see this park. In this park is this statue. Now this statue is a statue of a Confederate general. And we can get into that. That's a whole nother conversation. But it's not just any Confederate general. It is Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was one of the founders of the Ku Klux Klan. Now this is 2019 that you see this image. The person who funded this statue is a gentleman, I use the term loosely, Jack Kershaw. Jack Kershaw is a white nationalist who was the defense attorney for James Earl Ray, who assassinated Dr. King. And the impetus for this statue was Jack Kershaw said, someone needs to say a good word about slavery. Now, what does all this mean in this context? So in homes, maybe the home right next to this kid who has the image and the family says you can be anybody, there is this type of image, or could be 1,000 others, where the adults say, no matter what you do, they're not going to let you be successful. And we have to educate both of those children. And the one who grows up in the home on the left needs support. The one who grows up in the home on the right needs a lot of convincing that we care about them. So this is pictures of my grandbabies. Shantae, those are Kennedy's kids. I mentioned Shantae because I had him in school, and probably the last time she saw Kennedy, she was very, very young. Well, Skylar's on the left, Trinity next to him, and then there's Carter and Scarlett. So on any day, they're very busy, so our schedule, my wife and mine and my son-in-law and my daughter, typically like children, our schedule is whatever their schedule is. So on some nights, I may have Carter and Skylar. If I take them to McDonald's, and we talk about equity and fair, sometimes, we often say, well, I was fair. I treat everyone equal. Well, that probably isn't good enough when it comes to our children. So if I go to McDonald's, go through the drive-through, I get two four-piece Happy Meals. Carter, the 3-year-old, is ecstatic. She got her nuggets, she got her apple juice, she got her apple slices. Skylar is not very happy, but he's also still hungry because as a 5-foot-tall 9-year-old, that 4-piece is not adequate for him. So I was fair, but I was not equitable. And we really have to concentrate on giving students what they need. How many of you have seen this image? So this is an image, and when it came out, people celebrated it and thought it was great. You see on the left, equality, and on the right, equity, which is providing everyone what they need. I would challenge us to take this a little further. If we really are focused on equity, let's remove the fence. And then maybe if we go a step farther, maybe the 3 family members, we do better if they were sitting in the stands with everyone else. And that is equity. Now, I love this image a little better. This image, you see equality, everyone has a bicycle, but the bicycle doesn't fit everyone's needs. And equity, we've provided everyone the bicycle that they need. And that is what is important, giving our students what they need. Wow, this is quite a picture. And you see the little peanut head on the left in the front. That's me. That's my family. Great parents. But my parents needed someone to help with the success of my sister, my brother, and myself, because as well-meaning as they were, my parents had a 9th and an 8th grade education respectively. So they needed help, and they needed someone to invest in me. And when you think about that, there's 168 hours in a week. At best, we've got 40 hours with young people, at best. So there's 128 hours unaccounted for that we have no control over. So our 40 hours better be really good because we cannot control the 128. Some of it may be great, and others, depending on the home, the child, the situation, the trauma that they experience, those 128 hours are out of our control. Now, what they did, you see the blown up picture of me. That's my 8th grade picture. They blew that picture up. That was supposed to, when I gave this slide to them, it was really small. I didn't want anybody to see that. But you'll see, and I've got 2 teacher circles. So in Springfield, Ohio, where I grew up, I lived in an all-black enclave, 4 streets. Everyone in my neighborhood was black. But around that was all white. So my junior high school, and junior high at that time, and I'm dating myself, those of you who went to junior high, 7 through 9. My kids, I say junior high, and I said, no, Dad, it's middle school. But 7 through 9, I've circled 2 teachers. The one on the bottom, Frank Krautwater. And you'll see at this school, 750 students, 40 black students in this school. And you see the makeup of the teachers. Frank Krautwater, my 8th grade American history teacher, says to me, you should be a teacher. You know how powerful that was? I was the only black kid in class. And he said, you should be a teacher. Ruth Barringer, the one up at the top, circled, all 4'8" of her. April, my 8th grade year, English class, I missed my first homework assignment of the year. Ruth Barringer takes me to the office. Now, in 1974, you could do that. You know, she left the class and took me down to the office. Can you imagine that today? So she takes me down to the office, tears in my eyes. I say, Miss Barringer, what gives? Once again, I'm the only black kid in class. Miss Barringer says, you're the best student in class, and I expect more out of you. You think I was going to fail Miss Barringer because of what she invested and what she believed in me? Now, I wasn't the only person that she invested in, but I felt so strongly about her, it might as well have been the only one, because I believed that she cared about me and there was no way that I was going to fail her. Went to college. I went to Wittenberg University. My first week on campus, I encountered this gentleman, Dr. Jim Huffman, who is one of the foremost authorities on Japanese history in the United States. So Jim Huffman brings me in his office and he says, I'm committed to make sure that you're successful here. There's no way I'm going to allow you to fail, so whatever you need to do. So in 4 years, I spent a lot of time in his office. We still have a very close relationship today. He lives in Chicago, he's retired, and we are still very close today. But that investment, and those of you, how many are familiar with FERPA? FERPA are the rules, you know, privacy rules. So Jim Huffman tells my mom too, he says, I don't care about FERPA. If Michael messes up, I'm going to call you and let you know. That is power of investment and belief. So, if you ever wonder why children that you engage are love sports and are into sports, there are some reasons. Very practical. One, there's no subjectivity in sports. You either can play or you can't. You're either successful or not. There's no subjectivity. And we do that quite a bit. There's a lot of subjectivity that we have in education. So there's a scoreboard. There are clear rules. You know the rules and what you can and cannot do. Immediate and constant feedback all the time. There's great support. Coaches, parents, family, friends, they support you. There are rewards for performance, sometimes small. Maybe you make a basket. Maybe you score a goal. Maybe you block a goal. And sometimes the reward is a lot larger. You may get a trophy. You may win a championship. And then there's interactive teaching and learning. Those of you who have had that T-ball experience, T-ball is very interesting. But can you imagine a coach coaching little children T-ball, sitting under a tree with a glass of lemonade and saying, you need to hold the bat at a 45-degree angle. Put your feet parallel. No, there's interactive teaching and learning. So when you watch these coaches working with a 5-year-old, they put their feet how they should, hold the bat. It's interactive, and it's very visible. It's hands-on learning. So the question is, can we provide this same support in other areas of life? So I mentioned Kennedy and Kellen. On the left, Kennedy and Kellen when they were young. So shouldn't what we do in our homes be what we do in other places? And most of us know, coming out of the same family, our children are different. Those two are very different. Now the picture on the right is my bonus kids. Kennedy is in the middle. Her husband is next to him, and then there's Kellen. But Kennedy walked at 9 months old. Kellen walked at 13 months. We didn't say to Kellen, oh man, you flunked the test, you should have walked at 9 months. We celebrated when he began walking because it was when he was supposed to walk. Also in our homes, we don't have this, hopefully in most of our homes, there's not a date where we say, this is the date you need to know how to tie your shoes. And if you do not know how to tie your shoes at this date, you're going to wear Velcro strapped shoes the rest of your life. We work with our kids. Some of you have bought those shoes you get at stores. It's got the wooden shoe and you can tie them up. But every child learns at a different pace. And we accept that in our home. But we have difficulty with that in education. A little side note, you'll notice Kellen, who's on the far right, he reverted back to the same haircut he had when he was 6 months old. So here's the power of us and as we work with students. Do we believe in them? What is our attitude towards students? What's the relationship with our students? Do I know them? Do I really know them and what drives them? What's their currency? My wife taught me this term, finding out, blended family, we need to find out each of our kids' currency. What makes them tick? Third thing, do I care about them? How do I feel about them? The environment for learning. Do I provide my students with an environment of excellence? Do I have high expectations? If we have low expectations, they're going to meet them. But we have high expectations. I've never had students not meet high expectations. Because he's in here, it makes me think about that. So when I was coaching basketball at Trotwood years and years ago, we'd have practice at 6:30 in the morning. When I got there, they said, you can't have practice at 6:30 in the morning. Kids aren't going to be there. Never missed. Never missed. And then, the thing is, the high expectation, they thought we were doing something special with that expectation. Last, relevance in instruction. Do I realize who my students are? How many of you have familiar with Ezra Jack Keats? And if you're not familiar with the name, you're probably familiar with the book, The Snowy Day, and many other books, Peter's Chair, Goggles. For a long time, when I first got my kids the book, I thought Ezra Jack Keats was black. Ezra Jack Keats was a Jewish American who felt that kids of color should have books that are relevant to them. How he felt that was very, very important. And you see, it's considered, Snowy Day is considered one of the most important children's books in history. So, with me saying all that, I'm going to give you a challenge. And this is amended challenge that we have right here at Sinclair. We talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity. So this is your challenge. Attend one or several community diversity inclusion events in the coming months. Have coffee or lunch with someone who is different from you. And then third, acknowledge students that you see in school and the community. We see, the thing that is very obvious, when you see people who do bad things to themselves or others, they feel marginalized, they feel mistreated, they feel invisible. Pretty hard to treat somebody, be mean to somebody or mean to yourself when 10 people have engaged you. Say, how's your day? How you feeling? I really care about you. I'm glad you're here. It's pretty hard to do. And we have to keep those things in mind. So, I think this is one of the more important slides as we look and examine ourselves. What are those things that we do on a daily basis to engage every child and have high expectations that they are successful, so that those parents like Maxine and Don Carter can rest assured that we have our children's best interests at heart. Thank you.